Working Cows Podcast, episode 208.
Welcome to the podcast that gives producers a platform to discuss and share paradigm-challenging practices. Practices that have increased the effectiveness of their operation and the joy that their families have received from this lifestyle.
Howdy, everybody. It's Clay Connery, host of the Working Cows Podcast, powered by the Global Ag Network. And this episode is brought to you by Performance Livestock Analytics. Check out the show notes page for today, workingcows.net/208, for a link to performancelivestockanalytics.com. We're going to talk today to Jared and Marion Wine of Wine Glass Cattle Feeders down in South Texas. They are just a little bit west of Corpus Christi, and we're going to talk to them about their operation, what makes it tick, how they got started, how they're using technology like Performance Beef to benefit their business. So really excited to talk to them today as some young folks who are just getting started out in their operation. Jared, Marion, thanks for joining me today on the Working Cows Podcast. Thanks
for having us.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So I guess just a little bit of background on the two of you, kind of how'd you meet, how'd you get together, and how'd you get into the business that you guys are in right now?
Oh gosh, well, Jared didn't know. We had a history class together. In college, yeah. So I saw him in my class, and I had the biggest crush on him. But I was the girl. We got a call. I was the girl that kept our professor on track. So that's how he remembers me in that class.
Was that a positive thing, Jared?
Oh yes, always. But that was up in Brenham at Blinn Junior College.
Yep. Yeah, I took a couple agricultural-based classes my first year of college. And I also did a couple engineering classes as well. I really wasn't sure which way I wanted. I knew I wanted to do the agriculture industry, something, but I didn't know what. And then engineering was kind of on my mind too. So I kind of took split classes the first year. And no, you weren't in any of my ag classes that year.
Mm-hmm. I was just taking basics, deciding if I wanted to do college or not.
Yep. Good place to do it.
About his bowling class.
Yeah. No, but we met up in Brenham, and then we moved down to Kingsville, and went to Texas A&M Kingsville, Tamook, and got our degrees down there.
Yeah, so I did wind up graduating with a chemical engineering degree,
and I graduated with a range and wildlife degree.
Oh, nice. And yes. Both of you guys grow up in agriculture then?
No, sir. I grew up in Katy, west of Houston. My dad works on the highways, and my mom does home.
She flips.
Yeah,
nice homes.
Yeah, flips houses.
Nice. And Marion?
Yeah, and I showed heifers through high school. My dad's friends actually gifted me the heifers that I showed for them because they were trying to get into the show cattle business back then. But we weren't into agriculture as far as family land or ranches go. I did grow up going out to my family's ranch when I was younger, but my granddad had to sell our property. So that was tough because I really felt like I lost a piece of my identity. But I was really thankful for my dad's friends to kind of look out for me and give me animals to show. They actually paid for the feed and everything. And my dad bought me a little Toyota Tacoma truck and an old little horse trailer. And I even took them to all the shows and everything by myself. So
very cool. And fast forward, y'all are together and running a backgrounding operation. Is that right?
Yes, sir. We are. I guess 4 or 5 years ago, I'd been day working and hauling cattle and riding pins in feed yards and just kind of doing what I could to make ends meet. And my wife was doing her job. And we talked and figured, riding pins in the feed yard and doing stuff like that. I said, well, let's try to start backgrounding cattle down here. So we just kind of talked about it and decided we were going to start it. And here we are. We started it.
Yeah. Tell me about a backgrounding operation west of Corpus Christi. What's that look like?
So it's dry. Not as dry as other places, but it's still pretty dry. Our place that we have that we own is right around 100 acres, and then we lease country around us, and we partner with people who have country around us. Our cattle will go out in small traps, 20 to 60 acre traps, and we'll kick them out there for a handful of weeks, get them through the majority of their learning process, and bring them in and put them on feed and try to doctor them out in the traps. They seem to do a little bit better doing that. And everything is bought out of the sale barn down here for the most part. We get a few country cattle, but pretty much everything comes out of the sale barns.
And are they purchases that you guys are making, or you guys have kind of open up spots for other people to bring stuff to you?
Yeah, no, sir. We've done a little bit of custom stuff, and we're not opposed to it. We just don't do a lot of it. We own, as of right now, all the cattle that we have on hand at any one time. We try to keep around 1,000. Right now, we're down to about 600. We're toying around with feeding some fats. So that's kind of a new little deal. It's kind of fun. And that's kind of what we're doing as far as the background and cattle goes.
Sure. And what drew you to the backgrounding specifically?
The new cattle constantly. So, it was never, it's funny because, so obviously what drew me to it is the new cattle constantly. You're always dealing with sickness. You're always dealing with health. You're bunk training cattle. And, that was always fun to me. And now I'm not saying we're transitioning to feeding fats, but like I said, we're toying around with feeding fats because that's more, once you get them in and get them rolling, then you just pretty much feed them every day. And it's a little bit more relaxing. So, I mean, I still love backgrounding, and we still background.
Sure.
As many as we can, but we are starting to toy around with the fat side of things.
Gotcha.
So even though they take less time, your plate is more full now than it was back when we started originally.
Oh yeah.
So little breaks here and there.
Yeah.
And Marion, what's your day-to-day involvement?
Well, I do whatever I can to help. So I have I'm an engineer. I work in Corpus Christi at an olefins unit. I have an hour drive to and from work. So that chews up a lot of my time when I'm not here, but whatever he needs help with, I try to help him.
She's a chemical engineer.
Yeah, chemical engineer.
Right.
I said that. It's good times in the chemical plant. I tell everyone that goes by it's a cloud factory because of all the steam that comes out of the cooling tower. But
right.
Here, if he's working late and I can run the feed truck, I'll try to run the feed truck, but it seems to break down on me more than it does on him. So there's that to factor in. But and then whenever I'm off, especially right now, because we had a really great guy that was working for us for a while, and he moved on to another job, kind of a step up for him. So, and it was at the same time that we expanded our footprint, I guess, in the cattle industry. So when we are off, I get every other Friday off because I work extended hours at work. Our plates are pretty dang full.
She helped me dig up a water line yesterday.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, maybe that's our problem up here in South Dakota, where we've had about 7 inches of rain here since last October. We need some cloud factories. Maybe that's our problem.
Yeah. I'll try and blow some y'all's way.
We'd be thankful. That'd be great. So, yeah. How long you been in the background in business? 4
or 5 years, I do believe, is when we
bit the bullet.
Yeah, whenever I quit doing everything and just solely was backgrounding. Because like before, when I was day working, I worked at the sale barns, and I'd buy little fixer-upper cattle and put a load together and sell them, but solely backgrounding cattle has been about 4 or 5 years.
Was there some of your history? I mean, between day working and buying fixer-uppers, was there some of that history that kind of prepared you to succeed in the backgrounding?
Yes, sir. Yeah, there's a lot of things I thought I knew coming into it and doing it, and the fixer-upper kind of cattle, there is a place for them, but whenever it comes down to it and you're trying to do it for a living, you got to kind of start with a good product, end with a good product, right? To pass on a good product.
Yeah.
And, but no, obviously, riding pins and looking at sit cattle, like I say, anyone can see a calf when they're sick, but catching them coming sick is what makes someone good at doctoring yearlings.
I have to say too, he's pretty darn good. Cash, our son's pretty good too, but yeah, sometimes we'll ride pins together and he'll be like, that one right over there. And I'm looking like, if there's, how they kind of stay in little groups, I'm looking at 2 groups too far back. He's already on to the second or third group in front of me, where they're not seeing you yet or not really expecting to be walking up to them. So, yeah, I have some learning to do there.
Sure. Yeah, I gotta, the cattle I doctor, they got to be pretty sick before I can catch them. So I hat tip to a better cowboy than me, that's for sure. How are you guys approaching that? What's the doctoring look like when it has to be done?
So we'll do it a bunch of different ways. I use a dart gun if I have to. We'll catch them when they're out in traps if we have to, or I'll pull them and doctor them down the chute. I try to do whatever's best for the animal. There are some times when, that booger's 1.5 miles from a set of pins and, he's coming pretty sick. There ain't no point in pushing him that far when I catch him quick and easy and we can doctor him right there. Or if I have a dart gun, I can, and the medicine I'm using at that time that's working can be shot out of a dart gun. If it makes sense, it makes sense. We're not stuck to one thing. We just try to do whatever's best for the animal.
Sure. Gotcha.
Yes.
You mentioned a son. You got a family there on the ranch with you?
Yes, we have our son who's 7, and then his name's Cash, and then we have a little girl named Emily Ann, and she's 3. And Cash, from
boys ate up with it.
Oh yeah, he's so good. You can be out and have 200 cows around you and tell him to watch one, 100 yards or 200 yards away, and he won't let it get away. He'll keep his eyes peeled. So while you're getting a dart ready or whatever.
It's funny because you'll be riding through cattle and he'll say, "Oh, look, he's coming sick," and a lot of the time he'll dang sure be right.
He's better than me. I know that. He's better than most people.
He sees a lot of them.
He does. But during his summer break, he stays with Jared all summer. Mm-hmm. So that boy hates school. I feel sorry for his teachers, but it's just so much more fun to be in the sale barns and doctoring cattle.
Whenever he goes back to school, I'm sure for a little while, I feel like I got a hand tied behind my back because I've been so used to him.
That's cool.
Hand. We call him fingers. He's a hand.
Yeah, good. That is good. And what are some of the challenges, or how are you guys balancing some of those challenges of the family and the business and the job in town? What are some of the things you guys have learned as far as balancing all those things?
Oh man,
it makes for long days.
Yeah, I honestly. The way I describe it to people at work, because they follow me on Instagram or whatever, and they see, just how busy we are. And I tell them it reminds me of when you're going down the highway and there's that grasshopper that's on your windshield or on your rear view, your side mirror, and you get to going faster and it's shaking, but it still holds on. You try to go faster to see when it's going to fling off of there, but I kind of feel like we're that grasshopper holding on to that mirror.
Yep. I get that. I've caught myself watching them before too. So, and maybe sometimes identifying with them. Yes.
But no, it just makes for long days sometimes. Work when the kids get home, and usually we'll end up checking bunks or something before. I generally take them to school, so I'll check bunks before I take them to school, and then come back and feed everything. Their school starts at like 7:20, so it's early enough. And then in the evenings, whenever they get here, usually we're feeding horses at dark and finishing up for the day. So they're everywhere in between.
Yeah, there's a lot of pizza on the tailgate dinners, probably way later than most kids stay up because we got to process cattle at night or whatever, but they love it. So they love it. Keep them right there in front of all of it.
Yeah, that's good. I've told this story quite a bit, but I didn't grow up that way. I grew up on a ranch, but I didn't grow up loving it. And so it's always good to see those kids that do have that fire and want to be involved in those things and keeping them involved. And yeah, I just really, really appreciate that. Kudos to you guys for involving them all along.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I think they would kind of have our butts if we didn't. Yeah. But we're very blessed to have those kids in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned sharing the story on social media. How does that work? What does that look like?
Well, I just try to be conversational in our day to day. And show bits and pieces of the kids and how they come into play. Show Jared, I don't know. The people call it influencing, or I guess people with followings on there, they call that influencing. And I really don't feel like that's what I do at all. I feel like I just show our life and how we're living. And I think people enjoy it. And they enjoy seeing the kids. I think they appreciate the work behind what Jared does. And then I think a lot of other women like me appreciate the fact that I have an in-town job, and they do too. There's a lot of operations, even where the husband, works somewhere else and the wife stays and tries to keep all the cattle fed or whatever. And so it's really great to connect with people on some sort of level.
Far away. Yeah,
and they can be far away. And I think it's really unique too. It's not just someone like us who's trying to build something from nothing. It's also, people who have land that has been in their family for years. It's such a common denominator in the ag industry. So I really appreciate that. And I value the relationships I've made with people over the years for that reason too.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the motivation for being out there, putting yourself out there? I mean, some people might look at it as a risk, and some people might, talk about the negative side of social media, and sometimes the comment section can be, just a toxic waste dump. But yeah. What's the motivation for you guys as far as sharing that story?
Man, I tell you what, there are some Nancys out there, but I've kind of put myself out there a little bit more here lately, especially with what is going on in the world. And for every couple hundred positive comments I get some really ugly, gnarly person. And it's funny because they always, in the beginning, especially, I'd kind of go back and forth with these people and they always come back and try to personally insult me. And it's like, I know that I won at that point because you have nothing left to bring up. As soon as you start getting personal, you've lost.
Right.
But there's really not, I think that by and large, people appreciate this lifestyle so much. And I think that they love to see it. I think they love to see dirt under kids' fingernails and in the creases of their necks. I think they appreciate all the dirt we come in sometimes wearing, even when they're not involved in this type of lifestyle. I think it's such an eye-opening experience. But here lately, I feel it's even more so important to not really hold back. I see a lot of people hold back because, like you said, they're really worried about what's going to come at them. But I really feel like the world's a little bit too sensitive these days, and we need to be more understanding. And the only way I feel people will be more understanding is if more people are just open and honest about what they do and why they do it. And
I think a lot of the negativity is just ignorance. Is people just don't understand, what we are doing, and that way, heck, I love these animals. You know, I mean that, wouldn't have a job, wouldn't have the life we have, wouldn't have anything if it wasn't for them, So, I mean, everything we do is for them. Our life revolves around cattle.
It revolves around making sure that they only have one bad day in their life. I mean, the more good days you can string together in their life, the better your business bottom line gets.
Exactly. And people make comments about, like you asked earlier about our doctrine message, people make comments about, roping cattle, that's so much stress on them. And there are times when, yes, that is added stress that is unneeded, but there are times when it is a tool that is the only tool that can be used, and it is the best tool for the job. Now, like I said, we'll pull cattle, we dart cattle. I mean, we do what's best for that animal, and I think a lot of the negativity on the social media comes from ignorance as to, they've never been around it. They have no idea, they just go off of whatever the TV tells them.
Right. And they're on their way to being way more stressed than they, a week from now, they'll be way more stressed than they are right now with my rope around their neck, for 5 minutes or whatever. So
exactly.
What about relationships? Have you developed some relationships through social media that have been beneficial?
Oh my gosh, I can't even count probably how many relationships we've made.
There was just a girl here this weekend who's from Nashville, Tennessee, off of social media.
Her name's Jenna Paulette. Check her out. She's an up and coming music artist. She's got some really great music right now. But she was in a similar situation too. She had a family place, and after family members passed, they had to get rid of it also. And she's in Nashville. She's going to make it big, and she misses this part of that life. And
she comes down here and to get her dose of some cattle working.
Yeah.
And we dang sure put her to work when she comes.
She handled it. And
I've gone to Kansas and met with some people that I do work with that I don't know that we met on Instagram, but they knew who we were on Instagram.
Yeah.
Or they knew who my wife was on Instagram.
Long story short, we saw him at an Irish piano bar. So at the NCBA, and I saw him across the bar. I'm like, I have to go say hello. So I went over there. We struck up a chord, and here we are.
Mm-hmm. Now we send a lot of cattle out of South Texas up to the western part of Kansas that go to those yards.
And on the same hand, too, I mean, we've sold loads of cattle through Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's good. Good. Yeah. And that, I mean, just kind of fits well with the part of the discussion that we're having here today about just how technology is, helping you guys be successful, especially like Performance Beef, as far as the app and those things you mentioned a couple of times, feeding cattle in the feed truck. So what does that look like day to day as far as the feeding is concerned? And then how is Performance Beef helping to simplify that task?
So, it's actually pretty funny. So my nutritionist he's actually a good friend of mine up in Kansas. His name is Brandon Greenwood. I was talking to him before NCBA when it was in San Antonio. So I don't remember when that was. A year and a half ago, 2 years ago, something like that.
I think 3 years ago. Yeah. I think my friend of mine, Brian Mose, also a Performance Beef user, was up for the stewardship award that year when it was in San Antonio.
Cool.
So
awesome.
So we were. I was talking to Brandon about it, and he was telling me about Performance Beef, and I said, okay, I'll look him up. And then in San Antonio, that's the first time I met him face to face. And then we walked by the Performance Beef booth, and he was like, hey, this is that program I was telling you about. So I got to talking to them about it. And whenever we got home, I called them and got the wireless Bluetooth scale head thing and put the apps on my phone and on my iPad. And man, it's made life a whole lot easier, from Excel sheets and
oh my gosh,
print it out.
You have a life now because you have that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a life.
After those long days and those tailgate suppers, you're not coming in and trying to put weight tickets into the Excel spreadsheet.
Oh yeah, everything's so much easier, and heck, I'm not gonna lie. There were times in the beginning, when I was, I'd printed a bunch of charts, I guess, and put them in my feed truck, and there are times I'd be 3 or 4 weeks behind inserting, putting in my weights of the weights of what I fed cattle. Right. And, the glory of performance beef is every night at 10 o'clock, I get an email that tells me exactly what I mixed, exactly what I fed, any changes that were made, any movements in the cattle. I mean, it's automatic, and it dang sure makes things a whole lot easier, and it makes them more automatic. They're immediate.
Right.
So, whenever people, I try to keep a majority of videos of the cattle I have on my phone. And whenever people ask about cattle, I'll send them a video. And before performance beef, I had in my head what I thought I had in the cattle and what I needed to get out of them. And, so I'd sell them based on that. And then I'd get back and run all the numbers and go, well, crap. I'm actually going to lose money on this deal now.
Yeah.
But, performance beef, heck, I can whip out my phone and say immediately, and I'll be talking to people and they're like, and they'll be asking me, how do you know those numbers off the top of your head? Well, I don't. It's in the palm of my
Well, 2 to 3 weeks out, entering weights, you can have a lot of things creep on you pretty quick. Whereas, 10 o'clock every night, you know where you were and what you fed, what it cost you, and easy to make adjustments that way.
Exactly. And now they have the health deal, and I do it manually. And, whenever I'm out doctoring, I can enter the tag number and see if it's been doctored, what it had, when it had it, so I can make my next step before I had me a little notepad and I'd write everything down. And the health thing's fairly new. So before wasn't that long ago.
Right.
But I had a notepad, I wrote it down, and then I had a dry erase board in my office with all the pins in there, and I'd write what got doctored and when. And sometimes whenever we're having a bad set of cattle, not necessarily the cattle, whenever we're doctoring a lot, my pin space would get full and it would flow over, and then it would look really confusing to some people. But it's a whole lot easier with the health app.
Right. And the other thing that I think you mentioned already too is just the ability to invite other people into that conversation, like a nutritionist or a vet or something. You can kind of expose them to that same information at whatever level you're kind of comfortable with, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then the custom feeding side, if you are feeding for somebody, you can make them a username and a login and all that good stuff, and then they can sign in and look at their cattle, and see how their cattle are doing, see how the health is on them, see how much they're getting fed, and the same closeout that they see is the same closeout that they're going to get from me at the end, so pretty cool, because, whenever we don't do a whole lot of custom feeding, but when we do, people can see it just as well as we see it. Live.
Very cool. How long have you been using performance beef?
So I got it right after, I'd say a month after the NCBA in San Antonio. So 2 years ago or so. Mm-hmm. Maybe longer than that. But whenever that was.
Yep. And so you've had a few crops of cattle come in, used all the way through with them and sent them off. And
oh, yes.
And that sets them up for success later, right? I mean, good kind of, like I said, every good day that you can string together, the more good days you can string together, the better they perform in the future as well.
Yes, sir.
It sets them up. So how does your business look then? What kind of weights are you usually looking for to bring them in? How long are they there? Where do they go from there? Some of those things.
So generally I'll bring them in 4 to 6-ish, 400 to 600 pounds. And like I said, for the most part, they come out of the sale barns. And I'll put about 60 days on them. So they'll go out weighing 5 to 7.5. And whenever I buy them, I'll buy a load based on what they're going to go out at, and then generally I add 5% to it, just to cover any death losses. I don't usually have a 5% death loss, but it does happen. Last year, thanks to performance beef, my death loss was 2.25, and I know that, which is pretty good in high risk cattle straight out of the sale barn, I believe. Being backgrounded in pens. Like I said, they go out in traps, but they come in pens. But yeah, so I usually keep them around 60 days or so. Kind of get the majority of the bumps out of them, and then let them roll.
They're coming to you as ball and calves then mostly. Yes,
sir. Yeah, yeah, for the most part. So, and they're all going to be fresh off the mama. Right. The glory of South Texas is there is a lot of value you can put in the cattle, because people generally down here do not wean their cattle. In the sale barn, you're going to see a majority bulls versus steers. Mm-hmm. The cattle are untouched for the most part, I guess is a nice way to put it.
Friendly, tame, any of that?
Say it again.
Friendly, tame, any of that?
Oh, yeah. Wilder than heck is what they are.
We send some right up there from the sale barn.
Those guys go, what the heck is this?
They busted a couple hot wire fences. My friend messaged me off Instagram, and she said, I think these cows got out of this trailer and saw the snow and took off.
Yeah. Yeah, those were pre-con cattle too.
We took I went down and took Wally Olson's marketing school in Claremore, Oklahoma, which is kind of northeast Oklahoma. And he told me this method of marketing and managing doesn't work as well north and west of here, because you guys are too good of managers. He said I can go buy trailer loads of uncut bull calves every day in Joplin, Missouri. And I said, that doesn't happen. I mean, out of 10,000 head, I would be surprised if there was more than 5 or 10 that run through some of these stale barns here that are uncut bull calves. It doesn't happen here. So
that was so awesome.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, the cutting them, and heck, there's a bunch of ranches down here that the cattle don't get touched until sale day. They don't. They kind of live wild and free, and they get caught up and go to the sale barn, and that'll be their first time seeing a person.
Yeah, and that's kind of irrespective of breed. That's continental breeds and Criollo cattle and all those. They're all the same as far as that style of management down there.
Well, generally, the better quality cattle. I'm trying to think of how to say this without upsetting people down here. The better quality cattle, they're going to be handled a little bit better. And you get to the sale barns just to the north of us in Alice, like you get up around Kennedy, Karn City, and North Nixon area. Those cattle they'll have been handled. They'll be a lot more calm. There'll be more steers that run through than bulls. But you stay in these southern sale barns, and there will be a lot of bulls, and there will be a lot of cattle that are wild and free. And those are generally going to be your Beefmaster kind of cattle, your red kind of cattle, your Beefmasters, your Gerts, and I use those breeds loosely because there's not a whole lot of people that'll stick to a breed down here. Obviously, there are some larger operations that stick to a breed, but a majority of the smaller ranches are just kind of going to turn out crossbred cows, and they will either put a red or a black bull on them, or they'll put a Charolais bull on them. Mm-hmm. And, they'll like I say, they'll get kicked out, and they'll gather them up once a year and sell everything from 300 pounds to 800 pounds, stuff that didn't get gathered the year before or whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
It's lovely. That's what I just bought a load of 900-pound cutting bulls. So, yeah, exactly.
You have a friend with a trim and shoot, like a hoof trim and shoot.
They're big old yearlings is all they are, and heck, some people might have been trying to think they were going to make bulls out of them or do whatever they were going to do.
Yeah. This
actually on Thursday, they're going to, become more civilized, and they're gonna, we'll feed them and take them all the way.
They're gonna have a mind change.
They are.
The focus. They're gonna change their focus.
Exactly. They're gonna be more worried about that food bump than anything else.
Yeah. Very good. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You got like I said, you got a friend with a hoof trim and shoot, or I guess you got a friend with a really salty roping horse, head and heel, or what?
No, we'll just run them down the chute, and I got a hydraulic chute. We'll just run them down the chute. I use that California bander on them.
Gotcha.
So I like it. I like it a lot.
He usually doesn't get too mad at me.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do.
That's just
sanctification.
That's just sanctification, marriage counseling, working cows together. That's all that is.
Just like that shirt says, what did it say? Don't pay attention to things I said when we were working cows or something like that.
Good about the shoe is I can't hear.
It's loud.
I see. Yeah. Well, I think, you guys are in a unique position, starting out, first generation folks, both sides, coming into it fresh, and that's a good thing. Had a lot of drive and desire to make it happen. But what would you say is advice for somebody in your position, not having land or family base to start from? What have been some of the things that have been keys to your success?
Man, so a good financial institution to work with you. We use Texas Farm Credit down here. I don't know. I'm sure there's the Farm Credit Bank Services is a national thing, but that's who we use down here in Robstown. They have helped us tremendously.
They gave us a chance.
Yeah. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It takes money, and it takes a lot of money. You have to, you're going to have your ups and you're going to have your downs. You got to have a financial institution that's going to stick with you in those down times, because they're going to come. There ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But really, it's just sticking with it. There's going to be days when you think, what in the world did I want to do this for? But
there's been some awful days.
Yeah.
Why did I wake up today?
But heck,
stop.
That's in everything, So you just stick with it because the rewards are there, and we love it. Our kids love it. The whole reason we're doing it is to be able to pass something down to our kids, and hopefully instill the love for it, and hopefully we don't burn them out, and they want to go get a town job somewhere or something. But, hopefully we'll be able to pass it down to them, and they'll be able to grow it and take it further than we have. But
yeah.
One thing I can add too, is there are so many reasons why someone or people will tell you no. We even originally started off at the USDA office, and it's just, there's a lot of great support out there, but it's really unfortunate how hard it can be for someone to get money to do something like this. But you kind of get your heart set on thinking maybe the USDA is the place where you go to get a cow loan, because so many other banks don't understand, especially this type of operation. And
background yard in South Texas, it's like mind blowing.
There's so many people who think that they understand, but I don't mean to be rude, but they don't understand the ins and outs of a backgrounding operation. And it's constant moving of money.
It is so liquid. Feed is out every day. Cattle are in and out every day. That stuff has to be kept up with, and that's where performance beef helps us. But the bank has to understand. That's another thing that I didn't even think, talking earlier about the performance beef, is my banker has access to my performance beef, and he gets on, and he can see, okay, he's got this many head right now, he's got this much feed right now, he's got this much medicine right now, and it's helpful.
Yeah. I think back to my point, it's hard. And Jared hasn't talked about it, but when he would ride pins all day, and then he would go to the sale barn and haul cattle for them for a majority of the night. And that was back when when we first started kind of dipping our toes in the water, and we used kind of extra side money that we had made or saved or whatever to buy
A fixer-upper cattle.
A fixer-upper kind of cow. And, so I would come home from work and push everything up to the pens because we had them just turned out in a little bit bigger area than what your typical backgrounding or feedlot yard type is. So I'd come out, dump feed when I got home with Cash. He was a baby then. And then we'd get on a horse and push everything up. And we realized we made money, and we made money, time and time again doing that. So that's when we decided to go large scale. But if we would have stopped the first, second, third, or fourth time someone told us no, we wouldn't have gotten anywhere. So Jared would haul all night, and then he would take an extra shirt, and specifically with the bank that we've worked with now, go sit out in front of their bank and wait for them to open up, and he'd go inside because we kind of started to get an idea that they might be interested in talking to us. And I'm sure they were sorry when they said that to Jared, because he would, if he needed to sleep in their parking lot till they opened, he did. And they're just really great. But it's really unfortunate how many people I talk to on social media that want to do this. And I know it kind of steals my heart a little bit, because I know what it feels like to want to be involved in some way, or to have cows in some way, but just feel like there's really no one who understands, or no way to get into it. And people are out there. There's banks out there. You just can't stop. And Persistency. Yeah. And it takes up front money too, depending on which route you go for the most part.
There ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You got to have cash.
Have to have money.
That's, our deal, I don't know if it's too much to say or not, but our deal kind of requires 30% cash down on everything. Mm-hmm. So all the cattle, everything, I think that's pretty universal for cow kind of loans. But
yeah, we've drained my retirement several times over. Any bit of extra money we have, it goes right back into
into cattle.
Yeah. I don't have one of those vintage boho Louis bags or whatever they are.
Know what that is?
I don't know. I don't know. That might not even be the right name. I don't know either. But yeah.
But we got some yearly.
Yep, we sure do.
Well, I guess taken away from that, first of all, somebody who doesn't quit when the USDA says no, that's a whole other level of not quitting, because I think of that as like the place where they don't ever say no to anybody. So that's good. You guys are good at it. And the other lesson I think I grabbed from that was pack a clean shirt so you don't smell like the inside of your truck. And when you go talk to the banker.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, anything else as far as performance beef is related? You mentioned a bunch of other benefits, but what about advice for people thinking about making use of it?
Man, it's cheap for what it is.
It is worth it.
It is way worth it for everything that they do, and they are extremely helpful.
Oh my gosh!
They have a 24/7 call line, and you can call them real late, and they'll answer. I don't know why they answer. I would not. But I have called them at 10 o'clock at night before, and they answer the phone, and they will do everything they can to help you with whatever question you're having. And I am not the most technical person in the world, but it's really not that hard to use at all. Heck, my dad will come feed for us sometimes, and if he can do it, then shoot, anyone can do it.
Well, I don't know if it's a measure of technical savvy, but you had to download the Zoom app to do this interview.
Exactly.
So
exactly. Well, that's what I told my wife. I said, heck, 5:55, I'll just log into the email, and then I had to download the app. I was like, well, crud, I wouldn't.
He didn't know his password. I told him too. He needed to ask you if we needed a camera or not for this thing. So I don't think so.
Yep, just audio. That's all we're capturing here today. But yeah,
perfect.
What's the future? What's the future of the operation look like?
Hopefully, we can continue. We just bought a couple 100 acres north of us. I'm actually going to move some yearlings up there tomorrow, and hopefully, we can just kind of keep growing.
We've been very blessed.
We have been.
To grow as much as we have.
Yeah. Like I said, we partner with people on stuff, and that kind of helps us grow. And we try to just kind of trying to get into every aspect of this booger as we can.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, obviously, if we could get some more mama cows, we'd like some more mama cows. They're always nice and easy.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're always good to have around.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the show notes page for today will be workingcows.net/208, workingcows.net/208. Are there any links I should throw up there? I'll make sure I got the right Instagram accounts and all that. Anything else?
We don't have a web page or anything like that.
We don't have an email. Is that what you're going to
I
was about to say?
We have an email.
We have a fax. No, I'm just kidding.
We don't have a fax.
Fax us.
Yeah. But no, I guess it's just the Instagram pages.
Yeah.
What is it? Wine Cattle Company, right?
He said he's got them.
Okay.
I think I got the right ones. Yeah, I'll make sure.
Yeah. Yeah, mine is Marion Wineglass.cattle brand.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have our wine feeders.
Which is the Wine Cattle Company one.
Wine Cattle Company.
Yeah, that's that same one.
Yeah.
And then I have a personal one, but it ain't nothing.
The only time he posts usually is when it's been a really good wreck. So people always love that too.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this today. It was really, really good, really helpful stuff. And I'm looking forward to getting it out.
Heck yeah. Thank you for having us on.
Very much.
We enjoy it.
It was really nice to meet you. And thank you for investing your time in us too. It means a lot.
Yeah, really does.
Well, very good stuff. Really hope people don't sleep on this episode. That was a great one. Really appreciate their perspective, especially as ranching entrepreneurs, as their wineglass.cattle brand Instagram account describes them. And I think that's a great description. People who are looking for out-of-the-box ways to get started and finding their niche in the marketplace and getting started there. So really, really enjoyed that conversation. Coming up next week, we will be talking to Margaret Byfield of the American Stewards for Liberty. We're going to talk to her about the 30 for 30 or 30 by 30 land grab. That's the maybe uncharitable way to refer to it, but that's kind of the way it ends up functioning. And so we're going to talk to her about that. And so be prepared for that discussion, I guess. Looking forward to another episode of the Working Cows podcast coming your way real soon with Margaret Byfield. We'll see you then.
We invite you to visit workingcows.net to subscribe to the show via iTunes or Stitcher. You'll also find detailed show notes pages, resources from our guests, and the industry leaders who have influenced them. For more ideas on putting your cows to work for you in a more profitable way, tune in next week.